Welcome to the Grappling Rewind podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind podcast. In this week's show, we are going to preview the Who's Number One Gordon Ryan versus Jacob Couch. We're going to preview Polaris 19 Majid Hage versus Micael Galvao and talk a little bit about Fight to Win. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, with the co-host
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I got sick. That's why we're doing it remote. Here we are. The audio is going to take a slight hit, but we're doing the best that we can, given the situation. Hopefully we'll turn back in person once I am no longer sick. And that's that. Week's been good, Miranda?
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good. We got a little bit of news that we got going on this week. Do you want to dive right into it, and you got anything else?
Sure. We can go right into it.
Where do you want to start? Biggest news?
Yeah, sure.
We have a bunch of Who's Number One news this week, so we're going to kind of save that to the preview for Who's Number One. That'll be kind of the majority of the show, talking about all of the cool matchups on Who's Number One and kind of where we think they're going to go, the style matchup between them all. So we'll move into like all the drop-ups and announcements that have happened this week in that section. I think not biggest news, but for me, most interesting news, Megaton Diaz, Mackenzie Dern's dad, got his quarrel belt from, I think, Hoyler?
Yeah.
Was it Hoyler?
Yeah. Yeah, we were trying to figure that out. It was over the weekend, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. You posted, and I was like, oh, look at that, Megaton. Still competes in adult worlds. Good for him, buddy. Killing it as a quarrel belt now.
So if he does IBJJF, he wears a black belt when he competes, right? Or do you wear a coral belt when you compete?
I do not know. I've only ever actually seen one quarrel belt match, and I think it was it was the Brazilian IBJJF. Whatever that was,
okay.
But it was a match that those two guys, I'm not sure if it's an exhibition match or like what, but it was two quarrel belts competing. It was a cool match. We talked about it on the show a couple of years ago, but it's super infrequent. Again, most quarrel belts don't compete still, so it's super rare. Again, We'll find out with Megaton. I just don't know offhand. I would assume again he would wear a black belt, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see him wear the coral belt and everyone go, yeah, it's Megaton. He can kind of do whatever he wants. What ref's going to tell Megaton, hey, you have the wrong belt on? The dude's been competing as a black belt and been a black belt longer than, like, everyone. Hence why he's a coral belt now.
Well, longer than some of us have been alive, probably, so.
Yeah, I mean, dude's been competing at black belt worlds as a black belt since 96. So, be that as it may. But that was my coolest news of the week, because I think that's always just like wild that there are other belts beyond black. You kind of forget about that sometimes. Obviously, that was not what you were talking about. What were you talking about? What was your cool news?
Well, what was my cool news? That was where I was going.
Oh, okay.
But we can go into West Coast Trials and the people that at least got invites for.
We have some ADCC invites this week that came out. Biggest one is Ryan Hall. Got an invite for under 66, right?
Under 66, and they said he might do absolute.
Yeah. Mo was like he's hinting at absolute, and I went, whew, it's tough for under 66er. Again, him and we talked about Gary Tonen's match last week at One Championship that he got knocked out in by a Ryan Hall guy that trains under Ryan Hall, and then after that immediately, he got announced as an invite for ADCC after those two camps kind of went back and forth. Ryan Hall has been rumored as an invite for, what do you think, Miranda? We've heard about it for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like, he was in the discussion even in 2017.
Well, and he made an announcement earlier this year that he was going to do trials he was going to do trials.
Yeah, like again, he's been a guy that's been in the discussion for a bit. Third place at ADCC in 2007? What year was that?
I don't know.
Many ADCCs ago. Again, you can read through the whole history there, but definitely an interesting invite to come out of this week. Also getting an invite this week, got a poster this week, was Thor. Again, 4th place at the previous ADCC. Pretty much everyone that got 4th, or no, the places, the medals, and then 4th place usually gets an invite back to ADCC, so it's cool to see Thor returning. We also had Ron Alvarez also get a slot this week, in addition to some of the people that won South American trials have also gotten posters this week. So Roberto Jimenez got a poster. It is cool to see another Flagg on the ADCC poster rosters because I think Jimenez is Ecuadorian, I think is the flag that he has there. So it's cool to see like an Ecuadorian flag in the mix of all the Brazilian and Australian and Canadian and American flags there. And again, I like the ADCC is more and more world represented, at every tournament. So that's cool. Any other big names that you saw announced, Miranda?
The Ruan Alvarenga?
Alvarenga.
Yeah.
Ruan Alvarenga. He's one of the last guys to get announced at under 66.
Yeah.
Only four slots left in under 66.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out when Ryan Hall. I don't even know. I keep on getting his fight history, but not his. And then there's like multiple Ryan Halls.
Yeah.
They're not the Ryan Hall I'm looking for. But anyway.
I think it was 07. I could be wrong. Think it was 07. But, somebody please correct me in DMs. Be like, hello, Maine. It was actually this year, and you can pull it up. I'm going to pull it up probably immediately after the
2009.
podcast. It was 2009. Okay.
In Barcelona.
Okay. I got the year wrong as per usual. So those have been some cool invites this week. Other than that, we are a week out from 2 weeks out for us. So we'll have the recap of who's number one next week, and then followed by a preview for ADCC trials. Then you, I, my wife, we're all flying out to Vegas to cover West Coast, or just go to West Coast trials. Yeah. So that'll be awesome. So get ready for Maine to be very excited next week in discussing like the trials and the preview for trials. And then we'll probably do 1 or 2 shows out there in Vegas. We got some fun stuff planned for Vegas. There's a really, really cool Taco Bell in Vegas that I'm looking at going to. That is not a joke. I will make a trip to that special Taco Bell.
We are so having drinks at Taco Bell.
Yep.
Slushy drinks. It's gonna be great.
And then other than that, I don't think I have any other news, Miranda. Do you have any other news?
No, I think that's most of it.
All right, so let's real quick move through the main event of Fight to Win 197. We have Gerson Atoigue versus Lucas Lima in the gi. Again, I love seeing Fight to Win still having gi main events. This one was majority contested pretty much in the 50-50.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of activity in the very beginning, and then once they got into 50-50, it kind of went back and forth in that position. Gerson had some really good lapel grips that kept him in 50-50 and hooked in, but it kind of stalemated there for a little bit, and then somebody would try to pass, and then there'd be a little flurry of activity, and there was a couple attempts here and there, but mostly Lucas Lima had a hold of Gerson's leg.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and then I think you said there was like 3 minutes where Lucas was kind of going on a leg lock, but it's just so hard in the gi to finish those because you can't do any sort of twisting leg lock like a heel hook, and getting your hips far enough over to even get to a toe hold from there is pretty difficult. We did see an entry sort of into that a little later in the match.
It's surprising that Fight to Win doesn't allow heel hooks in the gi.
There's very few organizations that still do it, and it's been a discussion in Fight to Win, but there's a lot of... I'm not even trying to say this correctly. There's a lot of purists that still really do like to do Fight to Win, and heel hooks in the gi still turns off a lot of people. It's something that's still something that's frowned upon in a lot of gyms and training. Yeah,
I know. I get yelled about it. I yelled at about it.
I mean, if I don't know you, I don't want to train heel hooks in the gi. Because there's still a level of if you're a guy that openly does heel hooks in the gi, I'm a little worried about how you're going to address my safety because you just don't care. And that's cool. I train heel hooks in the gi.
That would fix our problem with stalemates in 50-50 in gi.
Absolutely.
If you allowed them to heel hook, you wouldn't have that problem.
Yeah. And again, I think one of the Arte Suave Invitationals did it a couple weeks ago. They have heel hooks in the gi. Again, I like heel hooks in the gi. And I train heel hooks in the gi with you, with my wife, with a bunch of other people that, I train with frequently who I trust. Some of my better training partners, we will definitely do heel hooks in the gi, comfortably.
But that's kind of everything. I'm not going to go into a heel hook battle with somebody I'm not comfortable with to begin with.
Yeah, but I'm more willing to train it with like a random guy at the
Nogi?
gym in Nogi, because it's like it's accepted, it's part of what we're doing. In the gi, I can very quickly like get wrapped up in a way where I don't have the mobility to even like get to you effectively to tap, because it's something that's still a little foreign and I don't train as much as I should to be as comfortable as I would like to be training that technique with people who I don't like train with super frequently, don't know my game kind of okay. So yeah, it would fix it. Definitely a more slow 50-50 match, but Lucas Lima does get it done. He takes a split decision, which I think was the reasonable call here. He was just a little more active on the bottom, looking for some control, looking for the leg for longer, and sort of attempting more. There was definitely some topside chokes that Gerson threw in towards the end that definitely kind of swayed things a little bit close to the end of the match. But I think, again, I don't like split decisions because that means that there's inconsistency in the judging criteria, but for this one, it was a razor thin margin that I think decided the match. So I'm kind of okay with it in this situation because, depending on how you look at the exchanges and the positional control coming up, it's very, very hard to choose a winner here.
Yeah, I agree.
Any sort of closing thoughts, Miranda?
No, I completely agree because I think Gerson had a few more submissions, but I think Lucas had the more definite
defendable submissions.
Yeah,
and that's such a hard thing to call in Fight to Win, where it's like, well, you had more submissions, but the other guy had a couple that looked like they were very, very deep, or not very, very deep for this match, but like deeper that required more defense. And so you get into a very, very thin margin for scoring criteria in that. And that happens.
Pretty much.
So also on this card, we saw Derek Flagg. Derek's a guy we've been covering for years. I think he's a purple belt now. Look really good. Gets a really nice just step over saddle heel hook entry. He goes for it a couple times. He gets it on like the fourth attempt, I think, and ends a nice quick heel hook. Love to see him competing. Haven't got a chance to cover him in a while, so it was cool to see him on this card. Anything else you got for this card? Or want to move on to the previews?
We'll move on to the previews.
Moving on to the previews, talking about who's number one, what was going to be the rematch of Gio Martinez versus Mikey Musamechi. Unfortunately, Mikey Musamechi's grandmother passed away, I think as of recording, 2 days ago.
Yeah, a few days ago. Him and Tammy are now off the card. We're guessing that's as a result of the death in the family. Again, condolences to the Musamechis. That's unfortunate. Wish them all the best at this time. Main event has now changed to Gordon Ryan versus Jacob Couch because Nicky Ryan, who was previously going to face Jacob Couch in this card, is still out with an injury. Like his leg kind of pooled up with fluid. He gave a very brief interview with Flo. Is it the knee? Is it the knee from the last two's number one?
I think it's his other leg, but I think he mentioned I watched the interview once and then he mentioned it. I think he said it's actually the other leg, but the leg that did have the surgery, it seems like it maybe didn't take, so they may have to redo the surgery and like redo the ligament again, which is unfortunate. Again, I really like seeing Nicky Ryan. I'm really curious to see how he looks at B team, kind of with those guys in that room as like a senior grappler, at the level. Really unfortunate. This was a match that I was really looking forward to with him and Jacob Couch. For me, it was a much more interesting match because I think that will answer a lot of questions about where both guys are, especially with Nicky moving up in weight.
Yeah, and I think that match, it could go either direction. It was a more almost even match.
Yes. This match, everyone knows looking at this match, this is David versus Goliath. This is Gordon Ryan, pretty much undisputed as the best grappler in the world right now in Nogi, taking on a rising star in Jacob Couch. Jacob Couch has looked very, very good recently at Grapple Fest and recently even more at U.S. trials for ADCC, getting, I think, third place in 88 kilograms at that division. Yeah. Looked great, but again, was unable to get a slot versus the multiple time ADCC champion in Gordon Ryan. This one should go to Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan is more experienced. He's bigger. He's not that much bigger. I think Couch made 85, and I think he has to cut to 85. Gordon posted something that he's like 228, I think. So I'm guessing that
really small. It seems small for him.
Yeah, I think he's come down in size, but I think that Couch probably will walk around something like, 195. Couch I stood next to Couch. Couch is a big dude. And Gordon's, again, also a big dude, but I think there'll probably only be 20 pounds difference here.
Okay.
The last real, in quotes here, that was not an exhibition match that we saw Gordon in was Gordon Ryan versus Wagner Hosha. That will be exactly a year ago when Couch and Ryan meet here.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen Gordon Ryan in a real, actual match in 12 months. That is going to be one, if not, I think that might be the longest gap in time we have ever seen Gordon Ryan in his competitive career. Even when he blew his leg versus Gabriel Hosha, that was still, I think, only 9 months between matches. Again, he had the exhibition match with Philip Rowe, but earlier, kind of in our pre-show, you brought up something really interesting, is that in the Philip Rowe match, that was a 15-minute match, Philip Rowe is going to be even smaller than Jacob Couch. Or he got tired in that match, and we saw Gordon visibly get fatigued in the match again.
And you saw him get frustrated in the match too.
Yeah, which was something that we really hadn't seen from him before. Like, Gordon was obviously trying to do something, and Philip wasn't shutting it down, but he wasn't giving him the opening that he needed to do what he wanted to do. And as a result, Gordon kind of had to play around and couldn't force the opening that he wanted to get done, what he was looking to get done. This is interesting because I don't think Couch is going to get tired. Couch has been competing a ton recently. Again, there are so many questions from the Philip Rowe match. Like, Wagner looked amazing versus Roberto Jimenez. Gordon looked amazing versus Roberto Jimenez. He looked amazing versus Matheus Diniz. He looked amazing versus Wagner. He has consistently looked phenomenal. He had one moment in the Wagner match where he kind of had to defend for a second, and then he submitted everyone. Jacob Couch here has nothing to lose and everything to gain. And that's a really interesting spot. And that's a spot that not anyone that Gordon has faced, again, other than Philip Rowe, who was an exhibition match, Gordon hasn't had to deal with that in a while. A good up-and-coming grappler with something to prove, who's got dangerous entries and attacks and will kind of unabashedly just move forward and try to impose his game.
And I also think he has a solid team behind him that will at least try to find ways to either beat Gordon Ryan or try to game the system. Yeah, because they're pretty good at they're pretty good at that. I mean, we've watched them, in the last, I would say, year maybe. Pedigo kind of came up last year or so.
Yeah, year and a half, 2 years.
They do know how to game the system. They know the rules. You can hear the coach, explaining everything, how everything works. So, Couch also has a team behind him that may, be able to come up with a decent plan. I just think if Gordon grabs a hold of Couch, that's a problem.
Yeah, I think that this is a match, again, we saw Couch struggle with guys like John, like Thor Blank, and it is tough to say. I don't think there's any area that Couch can trouble Gordon if they get into a jiu-jitsu battle. I think if Couch enters and immediately just starts ripping on stuff, and Gordon takes more than a few seconds to try to shut Couch down, that is the way that Couch can take this. If he's going to submit him, or if Couch is just absolutely going to do something wild. But I think Gordon will be ready for that and ready to immediately shut Couch down. My only concern is that if Gordon is going for something specific and is looking to call his match beforehand or call a submission, and Couch is savvy to that, and can he then force Gordon into a place that Gordon is, actively trying to fight against in trying to do that, and make the match go the different way? Again, I think this is very clearly a Gordon match. I think Gordon is a 4,000 favorite or something, and Couch is a plus 1,500 for the odds.
When is this? This is Friday? Okay, it's not Saturday. So I was about to say we could do some bets on. I'd put money on Couch just to see what happens.
All right. But I think that's sort of the dynamic of the match. It'll be really interesting. Couch has absolutely nothing to lose here in this matchup. I think there are more interesting matches for Couch. But I also think this is kind of an intergenerational match, and it's really interesting. This is kind of reminiscent of when Gordon Ryan was going against Yuri Simões at EBI 2017, 2016. Like Yuri, current ADCC champion at the time, Gordon, this up-and-coming guy that's just looking phenomenal, meets Yuri there, beats him. And it was like, okay, this guy is worth all the hype and absolutely on that level. We've seen Jacob Couch consistently look better and better and better and better, and every single outing has continued to impress me and like show me that he's a guy that if you're going to throw into this opportunity and spot, I'm curious to see how he does. I don't think he wins it, but I think that this will be a great opportunity for Couch to be in there with guys at that level and grow as a result of it. And he's an endearing guy, and it's a cool story. So, Miranda, any other kind of closing thoughts on that one?
No, that's about it. It'll be interesting. But you never know.
Yeah.
So, and the second match is Dante Leon versus Micael Galvao. And that'll be a interesting match one way or another.
Yeah, this is a welterweight.
Might go the distance too.
So I'm curious, this being at welterweight. Again, both guys are in the bracket for under 77 kilograms at ADCC. If the Micael Galvao that showed up at... hey, you got a little bit of bounce back on the mic. Can you turn the audio down or change the audio?
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's all good. It fixed it. If the Micael Galvao that shows up to to South American trials, shows up versus Dante Leon, that is going to be an absolutely difficult match for Dante Leon. If the Dante Leon that shows up at Grapplefest shows up for this one, this is going to be a barn burner of a match. I love matchups like this because this is two guys that are at the upper echelon, the top level of 77, that are going to go at it. This is a match that we could absolutely see in the semis or the quarters or the finals of ADCC, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest, in a couple of months here. Both guys, like you said in the earlier show, in a pre-show, like are very well-rounded. Both can wrestle. Like Micael Galvao, I think, was it 2 weeks ago or last week, did a Greco tournament and like placed in a Greco tournament.
It was recently. It was in the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Because it would have had been after trials. So.
And then he recently just did one of the opens for IBJJF in the gi, crushed everyone in that. Dude is unstoppable right now. And he's shown no sign of any issue. I think we've seen him kind of last year make a couple of like tactical and technical errors. I think at like Jits King but since then, dude looks bulletproof. In the black belt divisions, he fought Majid Hage at the first South American trials, submitted him, went 6 for 6 on the day. It's been wild. Like nobody can stop him right now. You're gonna need a guy like Dante Leon at that level to come and like try to stop him. And I don't know if Dante would be able to do it. He has the gas tank to do it. And also is a guy that is very... He has methodical. He also doesn't make a lot of mistakes anymore either. And so that's personally why this match is super interesting to me, because I think they're going to wrestle.
But if it becomes both of them trying to wear the other one out, and then Galvao is also throwing up submission attempt after submission attempt, it's going to be very difficult for Leon to get something working.
Yeah.
And be able to attack.
And the dynamics of the match, I think that's where I see this going. I can see that Dante being more comfortable pulling, although if they get up into a heavy wrestling match, we've also seen Micael Galvao work from the guard and look very good. We've seen Dante work from the guard and look very good. Like both guys are good in the places where the other guy is good, because both guys are good all around. And that's why this is such a weird match for me to kind of try to pick and like go through the dynamics of who I think is going to do well in the match, because they're both good at the same stuff and they're both very good at the same stuff. You know, there's no specific weakness. Like, both are good at the leg locks. Both have great guard work. Both have good takedowns. You know, both have a good clinch game. Both have a nice, like, heavy pressure forward wrestling. They're hard to shoot. They're hard to take down. They're hard to sweep. They're hard to pass. You know, I maybe would give Micael Galvao a little bit of an edge in passing. But, again, Leon's not a guy that we see get his guard passed very frequently at all. So it's, you know.
And we're also in a sub-only format.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
We're in a sub-only format, but it's kind of scored like points too.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is kind of like who is doing more on top. Again, I do kind of like how the fight to win, how who's number one does their scoring for this. It always, especially recently, the past couple events, it's been like, yep, that's who I would have given it to, based on who I think is like overall winning. They do it by the 3 periods, but overall they judge the whole match. Then interesting. I'm going to give it to Micael Galvao just because he has been on an absolute tear. Either guy winning doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think Dante can absolutely put up enough roadblocks for him and slow Micael Galvao down enough to, you know, get some positional offense going and throw up a couple and keep it close. But I think that Micael Galvao is just going to throw up more offense, and in a format like this, that wins him this match.
Yeah, I agree. I go with Galvao.
Man,
even though I'd like to see Dante keep on having good matches and
Dante's one of my favorite guys for years and years. Dante's been one of my favorite guys, so it's like I hate picking against him, but Micael has just shown, like, he has given me no reason to pick against him until he does.
And he's went against some of the top level competitors.
Yeah.
And people have been black belts for a lot longer period of time and doing very well.
Yeah.
So
next one, we have another really cool match. We have Nicholas Morgalli taking on Arnaldo Maidana. This is Nicholas Morgalli's first match nogi. He's with New Wave, with Danaher. He talks about in an interview, he's very complimentary of like the style, of the teaching, of the coaching. Seems to be, you know, smiling and happy there. I cannot imagine what it's like having him in that room. And because this, you know, that for the New Wave team, for John and for Gordon, that this is a project that, like, this puts a stamp on how good you guys are. Like, hey, you took one of the best gi grapplers in the world. He came over to you for 2 months. Boom, he's in discussion now for the best nogi grappler, having openly never done nogi before.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to have a guy that'll do it, like, man, Morgalli's the guy. So Arnaldo Maidana has an absolute task ahead of him in this match. Way more experience in nogi. We've seen Maidana a bunch. He went against Mikey Musamechi and shut him down and submitted him. He's placed at Worlds, like, very, very good. He went against Lovato. Maidana's a monster. We had a discussion in the pre-show about kind of Morgalli's game. Morgalli is a guy that can kind of adapt his game into nogi, I think, with not a huge amount of difficulty. He's, again, they're definitely... Keep going.
He doesn't use a lot of grips. He doesn't use a lot of... You know, if he does something like maybe lasso, he could probably still do a version of it.
Yeah, I mean, he uses grips, but he doesn't have a grip-reliant game, is what I noticed. Is like, there's all stuff that, like, he can switch that from a sleeve grip to a cup grip on the hand or on the wrist. Like, he can switch the collar grip to, like, a collar tie. Like, it's nothing that a guy at that level with that much experience can't make the changes in a couple of months of being with John and Gordon. You know, and that's sort of my thought is, he just had to make a couple of changes to aggress. My big question going into this match is, Maidana is historically been a guy that game plans really well for tough matches. And Morgalli has been pretty much an IBJJF gi guy for his entire life. How is his heel hook defense? That's my big question, because Maidana, I think, is going to be doing the smart thing, like Morgalli is going to take him down, or even if he takes Morgalli down.
How big is Madonna?
Madonna is about the same size as Morgalli. Like, he's not
Morgalli's
quite as big.
Ginormous.
I don't think he's quite as big as Morgalli, but he's close. Like, he is very close in size to Morgalli. But I think that is where Madonna will take the match because he game plans well. And I don't want to have a match from the guard with Morgalli, gi or no gi, because Morgalli's probably going to win that, even if, I'm more experienced in no gi. I want to push that match to an area that Morgalli is, not nearly as schooled in, which is going to be heel hooks, laced legs, reaping positions, all the stuff that's legal at Who's Number One that's historically, for Morgalli's entire career, been illegal. He just is not going to have the time and the experience in those positions like Madonna, but I think we're going to kind of see a return to DDS form here from John and Gordon where, boom, you're not good at this. All we're going to do in this time is focus on the things that are new to you, that are good. Like, you're good. I don't need to teach you how to single leg or double leg or like anything that's already in your jiu-jitsu lexicon. I'm not going to have you do. I'm just going to have you into the places that you're less familiar with. We're going to drill and put all of that time in. And then it's not going to be an issue because you'll have spent as much time in these positions as the guys that have been just generally training for years longer than you. And we saw that back in 2016, 2017, 2018 with the DDS guys. They were punching up far beyond their years, with their submissions because they were drilling specific sequences and chains and not really going through a lot of the other intermediary positions. They were like, we're going to get here, we're going to do this, we're going to do this more and better than everyone else. And I think that's probably the approach that they're going to take with Morgalli here.
Yeah.
So what do you...
I agree.
So how do you think it goes?
He doesn't need... Say it again, I'm sorry.
How do you think this one goes?
I mean, it would be stupid for Madonna not to pull to something, like pull to, I don't know, some
like 50-50.
A guard. Not like, but not, I mean, he's going to have to get there to 50-50.
Yeah.
But he's going to get down. I mean, I guess if they double guard pull, you could have that happen too. But I would think Madonna would try to get him down and try to go after the legs. And, I mean, you might get him, like, if let's say he gets behind him or gets some complicated, I don't even know, some more complicated leg pummeling, to the back, like backside 50-50, something like that. Morgalli might get in trouble just because that's a more like intricate pattern to try to break. But I mean, that would be the only way. Besides that, Morgalli is going to control him.
I think Morgalli gets to the back and he passes. I think he fights out of a little bit of danger for a second. And then I think he passes and then goes to the back. And then he gets the rear naked choke. That's the direction I think that this goes in. Because that's where I think that the New Wave guys are going to drill to put him there. Like, hey, we don't even want to take it there. We've drilled it all so you're not, like, clueless. But we want you to basically go in. They're gonna watch a bunch of tape on Madonna. They're going to be ready to pass his guard, get up, get around him. They're going to force the back control. They're going to go in. He's going to throw the body triangle in immediately from the back. And then because Morgalli has pretty long legs, that I think he can get around Madonna there. And then he's going to throw in the rear naked choke, and we're going to see some great hand fighting for a little bit there. And then Morgalli's going to take it. I am curious to see one thing I want to see is if Morgalli gets to the back, I'm curious to see what his hands look like because he is so accustomed to reaching across and grabbing that collar. I'm curious to see if we see that action, like we see him reaching over with like an open grip like that to try to grab to a collar. That is the one thing that I'm really curious to see if we see like when Morgalli's in competition mode, or if he, just has the hand across and doesn't look like any grip for a collar whatsoever. So that's what I'm curious about. What do you think?
I don't know. It's possible. I mean, you would think you would revert to whatever you have been doing for a long time, and it's not like he's been doing no-gi for any long period of time. So it'll be an interesting match one way or another. I think that the next match, Victor. I don't know why I'm saying Victor. Eldar Cruz versus Florida, as I like to call him, but Hassam Rida. That it's gonna be interesting. I think Cruz is gonna cruise through the match.
This is a tough match for Hassam. I like Hassam Rida, I like Eldar Cruz, but man.
I think Eldar Cruz just gets a takedown like immediately and just goes to work.
I mean, we saw Eldar versus Nicky Rod.
Nicky Rod.
At Fury 3.
And I mean, he was it Fury? Was it Fury or was it?
No, it wasn't Fury. It was
No, it wasn't Fury because what's it called? Went against somebody else on that. Yeah. It was Who's Number One because it was the day before my super fight and I was watching in the hotel. And it was an Eldar Cruz and it was Eldar Cruz versus Nicky Rod.
Yeah.
And I mean their wrestling it wasn't the most exciting match to watch, but you could see that Cruz definitely has a good wrestling base to him. Yeah. And I don't think Rita has the ability to really stop that.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I'm thinking as well. Again, Rita's very, very tall, very, very long. He has a great front headlock and Darce game, great ability to get to the back. But I think that Cruz is going to come in low, is going to shoot. I know that Rita has a good sprawl, but I think Cruz is going to body lock and then turn the corner on it, and he's going to get Rita down. He's going to flatten Rita out to the side and then sort of crawl to get towards his back and behind him. Rita may recover like a guard or a half guard, but I think Eldar probably stays around him most of the time there. And just imposes a really, really heavy top pressure game. I could see him also getting to the back of Rita. I don't think he finishes on top with an arm triangle. I just think that Rita's so long that'd be really hard to do. Eldar's much more compact. I think Eldar's going to be bigger here than Rita. But again, Rita always surprises me with how big he is because he's just so tall and long.
Because he's long, yeah.
Yeah.
He has that long, strong.
He's not called the giraffe for nothing.
Oh, okay. That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah. Again, very, very giraffe-like build for Rita. I just think the wrestling and the top pressure here, Rita just is unable to deal with. Not unable to deal with that. Has a difficult time dealing with that level of pressure because Cruz he's so strong and he uses the drive out of his legs so well to plant you into the mat. And then he does a really, really good job of overhooking on the top end of the shoulder. So when you try to tech up and get out, which is something Rita is really good at, and creating a scramble off of that to either triangle you or to throw you into a guillotine or to submit you, Cruz does a really good job of dragging people back down to the mat and preventing that particular type of scramble. And so I think, unfortunately, the style of this matchup just doesn't lend it to Hassam being able to get his game off, which is, a really heavy top pressure scramble to sub you, because Cruz is just going to continue to keep him flat on shoulders and hips and pressure. Again, I could see Cruz getting to the back here and getting a choke, but I could also see him just positionally working Hassam on the top and be, not letting Hassam ever get back to the guard and throw, or if he does get back to the guard, not let him begin to throw up any offense from the guard, because Cruz is going to continue to pressure his legs through and push down and force Rita to stay on the defensive.
Okay. Yeah, that seems basically what I think is going to happen. I mean, we could also have Cruz just keep on letting him get up and take him down. Yeah.
I think if he does that, though, Rita will probably just be happy with sitting guard. Rita does have a very nice guard, and we've seen him lock up. There was a highlight when he first came over to the U.S. from Japan of him just submitting people when he first got with Detroit Jiu-Jitsu, just submitting people from the guard and from all over. He can do it.
Good plan for him to do that.
Yeah, but I don't think that Eldar will. It would surprise me to have Eldar disengage when you're dealing with someone long and rangy like Rita, because you don't want to have to go in and out of that range. I think it's possible. I think he could definitely leverage his wrestling to try to make Hassam tired. because I think Cruz uses his gas tank as a weapon in a way that I like seeing heavyweights do. This is actually, I think, a light heavyweight match. But yeah, I just think that it's a really stylistically a really, really tough matchup for Hassam.
Who the Unity guy that Cruz went against in trials? I can't even think what his name is.
The Unity guy.
He went against the Unity guy. But he had a much better wrestling base, probably than Rita has. But anyway,
Who was it?
I was gonna add something in, but then I completely don't.
We can circle back to it. Next match, we're talking about Gabriel Souza versus Keith Krikorian. This is a fun one, and so I think during the pre-show we talked about this. We were like, hey, 6 months ago, would have probably given this to Souza. You know, it's a winnable match for Krikorian, but Souza just overall had been looking a lot better, looking good. And then Souza has had a couple of tough matches recently, both on Toro Cup versus DeAndre Corbray, that he really had to pull out the stops at the end to come from behind, and in the first or second round of the Emerald City Invitational. Was that versus Benio, or was that who was that versus?
It was Benio.
Yeah, Adam Benio.
Right.
I think, but he gets taken out in the first round.
First round, yeah.
Of the Emerald City. Again, it was in overtime.
It pushed him through. It pushed Benahue through, and no one expected him to be going through.
Again, it was an overtime victory. It was an overtime victory, but still, previously that's something I would have given Souza to take, relatively easily uncontested. That being said, Krikorian has been on an absolute tear on a lot of like the more regional super fights, just winning everything he entered. He recently won one of the Zapatero titles again. I think he defended another one. He's been like...
He did a combat jiu-jitsu. He won a combat jiu-jitsu bracket.
Yeah, like just been... Everything I see from Krikorian in the past 2 months has just been him every weekend winning some event somewhere. He's on that money circuit, just getting paid. He's not doing a lot of the huge major events until he has stuff like Who's Number One coming up. But dude looks unstoppable. Really excited to see so close to trials how Krikorian looks.
Yeah, I thought that he was supposed to be on the Emerald City Invitational too, and then dropped out at some point.
Yeah, he did. He dropped out. Last minute.
Yeah, but I don't know what that was about.
I forgot.
So that would be my only thing would be if there's something going on that we don't know about.
Yeah, if he's injured or sick or something like that.
Yeah.
This is a fun one. In this format, no time limit. Time limit, 15-minute sub only. This is definitely something that Krikorian is way more comfortable with than Souza. Again, we see Souza. We saw him at Toro Cup, which is a very similar format as well. But I'm curious to see if Krikorian can lean into his wrestling. Again, Souza has good wrestling, but Krikorian, I think, has stronger wrestling here. He's got a tricky guard. He's geared up for ADCC.
I don't know if I would say that. I don't know if I would say that Krikorian has better wrestling than Souza. Because I've watched some of Souza's stuff, and I think Souza has a benefit over Krikorian.
Okay.
But that could just be me.
Yeah. I'm just curious, this close to trials. This is literally a week before trials. Krikorian jumping into this match. We're going to see shades of what he's going to look like at trials. And again, he has taken second place at the last 3 U.S. trials. In 2018, 2019, 2021. There are few people that get into shape like Krikorian does for trials. And so that's kind of honestly why I'm going to lean Krikorian here. This is a tough one.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Krikorian only because, like you said, in the last few months, he's definitely picked it up. He's won a bunch of stuff. Even his trials win against Gianni Grippo was great.
Yeah, that come from behind at the end to finish the sub.
He doesn't stop. He just keeps on pushing forward. If this was Souza a couple months ago, I would have went totally into Souza, but I think Krikorian can pull this one off.
Yeah.
And I think it would give him some good, it would put some wind in his sails for trials. And we could see maybe a better Krikorian for West Coast trials.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, again, this is a matchup I am enthralled with because it's so close to trials, and Krikorian always looks so good at trials every time out. It's hard for me to bet against him because I know that he's catered his training to winning trials. Again, ADCC trials is a little different than who's number one, but in the 66 kilogram bracket, you know that you have 7-8 matches you have to go through. Again, Krikorian, if there are buys in that first round because of his performances at previous trials, he should be the number one seed going in to trials because you took second place at the last one. Unless you have a former ADCC medalist or, world champion contender in there. Krikorian should be number one slot at trials, so I would assume he would get a first round bye.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. You got 3 second places. I'm putting a lot of stock into that. Again, Souza can absolutely take this. Souza has played spoiler many, many times on the show, and it's partially why I love him. He's got a great game, very well-rounded game. But I think that Krikorian's gonna come in a level of shape that he can use his cardio and gas as a weapon. And Souza doesn't historically get tired, but I think Krikorian and his team are going to look at the Toro Cup match and the Emerald City match and put Souza into those areas and game plan for that. We've seen more and more game planning from Krikorian and his team recently, and I think that's going to come through in this match, and he's going to come in ready for exactly what Souza's going to bring. So this is a straight up gut pick for me.
Yeah, it's not an easy one to pick at all.
No, which is again, but it's good match. It's good matchmaking, and I like stuff that's like, I like matches that there's pathways for both people to take the victory. Those are more fun to talk about than the other way. Yeah. I also love being wrong on stuff. So prelims, these are available free on Flow, Facebook, and YouTube. We have Jessica Crane versus Sophia. Give me her last name. Casala. Yeah, you're more familiar with Sophia than I am.
Yeah, I went against her years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago in New York.
She's the Blast brown belt, right?
What?
You told me she was a Blast brown belt now.
Yeah, she is. She was Silver Fox, and I think Silver Fox falls under Renzo Gracie, so they're not like an Almeida school, but the whole Jersey, New York, everybody kind of trains together and is, kind of flow through each other's gyms. But I believe she switched over at some point to Tom DeBlas, and she does very, very well. On the EBI circuit, on the local circuit, super fights, everything. So I think her and Jessica Crane is actually a much more exciting match than the Jessica Crane Tammy Musamechi match.
Yeah, this is the match. Tammy pulled out of this match, and then Sophia has replaced her. Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing going into this. This is Crane looked very good. Was it on Who's Number One, or was it on something else? I forget the last time that we covered Crane.
She's been on a lot of stuff. She's been on Who's Number One. She's been on a lot of like the women, the 115 women brackets.
Yeah.
Which I can't even think, but there's been a few of them recently that she's been on.
Yeah, women's strawweight's been very exciting. You're excited to talk about and watch. This is fun. Again, I've not had a chance to cover and watch a lot of Sophia's matches. But I've been super impressed with Crane. I love people coming in as a late replacement. On to Who's Number One. Kind of building new folks up in the strawweight division eventually to, be on the main cards and such. So, again, I think these women will also both be at trials as well, because the West Coast trials for Vegas is the women's qualifier for North America. So I'm guessing that we'll probably see both these women in the under 60 kilogram division at that event. So this will be very interesting. Again, they're both strawweights, which is 115. I think women's 60 kilograms, the conversion for under 60 kilograms, the conversion for that.
It's 132 and under and 132 and over.
So definitely on the smaller side of strawweight, on the smaller side of under 60 kilograms, but should be fun. Again, I'm more familiar with Crane, so that's why I would like to pick her here, but that is just more of a familiarity thing.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
heard
gonna
good
go with
things from Sophia.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Sophia
Okay.
winning it.
Next match, we have Joe Durkheising versus Luke Griffith. We looked Luke up before. Flo has an article. What was the title of the article they had about him?
It was like Danaher's next project.
Yeah. He's a South American guy coming over to New Wave. He's at heavyweight. We've seen Joe. I was extremely impressed with him at trials, and even subsequently since trials, has looked very good. I don't know much about Luke Griffith. That's
No, I don't.
Full disclosure. I don't
either.
know. This would be the first time that I'm getting a chance to cover his match. He's a purple belt. He's under New Wave. He's come over. If Flo's writing an article that you're Danaher's next project, for me, that bodes well. Again, I would assume that you're kind of right behind Morgalli there as far as projects go, but definitely kind of to be in that contention, under John at the new spot. You're probably getting some pretty specialized attention and probably rapidly improving. Joe is a veteran, has been around a long time. I don't know enough about either of these guys' games. It's a very interesting test for Luke Griffith, and it'll be an interesting test to see what Joe looks like again prior to trials. I assume Luke Griffith is not. If he's South American, I assume he would do the Asian and Oceanic trials. But I don't know if he has dual citizenship or what's going on there. So I don't know if we'll see him at that trials or not, or if he does have dual citizenship and we'll see him at actual West Coast trials. But it should be a fun match. Also on the card, you have anything else on that one or no?
No, not at all.
We have Benji Silva versus David Garmo. This is gonna be fun. Can David Garmo counter leglock Benji Silva, or can Benji Silva counter leglock David Garmo? Will either of them wrestle up into the other's front headlock and guillotine game? That's what this match is. I am amped for this middleweight matchup because I think this is a really great showcase match to open the card with. Both guys have a really push-forward, aggressive style, and they both throw up a lot of submissions. And so I think it's a free prelim match to get people interested in the rest of the card, potentially, order flow. I think this is a really good match to showcase like some fun jiu-jitsu. We love watching David Garmo. I like watching Benji Silva. I think stylistically, kind of in contrast to David Garmo's training partner, Hassan Rita, this Benji Silva matchup will let both guys really play to their strengths in jiu-jitsu. And those matches are always fun. We're like, oh yeah, both guys are going to fight each other where they're both strong. But not in like a Micael Galvao, Dante Leon way, where I think they can shut each other down. But I think Benji Silva and David Garmo, we're going to see a ton of really, really nice in and out of position work and scrambles between like top and bottom work. So that should be very, very fun. I do not have a pick for that one. It really just depends like who can counter leg lock the other guy and then who can land in the front headlock. I think is where that one goes. So that is on the 25th of March. Gordon Ryan versus Jacob Katz. That's this Friday. Hopefully I am negative by then and we can have folks, but who knows? Moving on to our preview of Polaris 19. This one is awesome. I think this one's Saturday, but this UK time, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's Saturday, so it's probably going to be like in the middle of the afternoon.
Which I love.
Something crazy.
I love the Polaris and the Grapple Fest cards, the middle of the afternoon. It's like, wake up, like, it's 11 o'clock, let's watch some main events. I love it. I love that the UK has more and more events because midday grappling is awesome. Main event, we have Majid Hage versus Roberto Jimenez. So one of two things is going to happen here. We get what I'm hoping for.
Majid,
We get first South American trials Majid and second South American trials Jimenez. Both dudes on a fucking roll, ready to throw down and ready to submit each other. Or we could possibly get second trials Majid and not caring about leg locks Jimenez. Again, this could go either way. This is a really interesting matchup. Both guys are at 77. I think this is
it's under middleweight match.
Yeah, it's under 80 kilogram match. So the guys aren't really cutting a ton to make, if at all, to make this. Probably a little bit to make this. there's a lot of for me. There's a ton of X factors in this match. It's what version of Jimenez shows up, because the dude that blew through 77 kilograms at second South American trials, I'm not sure who stops that guy. Like, unless you can do what Gordon did, which is get the arm, or you can do what Couch did and get to the leg, or like.
Yeah, but part of what Gordon got was Gordon was so much bigger than him. Like, there was a big dominance.
He imposed some size there as well. But
if we get crazy Jimenez that's like talking to himself,
rubbing the mat into his hands before he goes, like, you get that guy.
You get that guy. I don't know, man.
But again, I
like Majid.
This is what brown belt Jimenez looked like, though. Just came out super aggressive and just chucked through guys. You know, if he has that confidence again coming off of the South American trials win, you know, that's a different dude. That dude is super hard to beat as long as he's fixed those issues he has with the leg locks. But they didn't really matter in South American trials. It wasn't an issue.
It was South American trials, which is a little bit different.
And people like openly talk about
but
South American trials, the leg locks at South American trials are not on par with American trials.
Yeah. But it is Majid, and we watched him completely break that one guy's foot in South American trials. So he has the ability to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's the best pathway to victory.
It's getting taken out. What?
No, I think that's his I think that's Majig's best pathway to victory here is go for the leg. But again, that's everyone's best pathway to victory for Jimenez is like you go for his legs. Do they try to contend in a wrestling bout? Does Majig pull? Does he shoot low, and does Roberto go for the front headlock and the guillotine like we saw Micael Galvao go? Because that's very much part of Roberto's game as well, is that front headlock guillotine game. Much like most of the guys at like 88 kilograms or up. You know, that front headlock game is such a tool that they use. But if Majig can get on top of him and force Roberto to play guard, Roberto has that amazing double under back take that he uses all the time. So that's a factor as well. Can Majig stop the back take? I think this is a match I think we will know the outcome of very quickly. Yeah. If Roberto can put Majig on the back foot, I think Roberto takes this. If Majig can get to his legs and like slow Roberto down and prevent him from pulling out, I think Majig can submit Roberto. And I think we're going to know very quickly. I think this match goes long, more than 3 or 4 minutes.
But I think within the first 30 seconds, you're going to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to see one of them open up or both of them open up.
And I think that's in the first exchange because both guys tend to start pretty quickly too. I think if we see Roberto immediately blast Majig off the mat, Roberto's going to impose, and that's what the match is going to look like. But if Majig can kind of weather that storm for 30, 40 seconds and get to a leg, and then start slowing Jimenez down there, putting him on the defensive, I think Majig can take it. But if he's unable to do that, I think Roberto just uses that tenacity and that forward pressure and speed to either get to his back or keep the pressure on the top and finish on the triangle. So that's kind of how I think it goes.
I can't pick that.
I want to pick Majig, but I just think that
I know I want to pick Majig too,
with how he looked at trials, the second trials, and how Roberto looked at the second trials, I have to go Roberto here. Like Roberto just looked unstoppable, much like Majig did at the first one, but not at the second one. So it's a big X factor match, which is again a great match to see. I think Roberto can just leverage that gas to put Majig on the defensive for the majority of the match.
The other thing about Majid is his loss at trials was a Dream Art guy, and I want to say he lost in overtime.
Yeah, it wasn't the first overtime,
and it wasn't a bad loss. It wasn't like he got blown out.
No, it was close. I think it was very close. It was like a 2-point loss.
So I don't know. That match, I have no idea. I think within the first 30 seconds, I can tell you who's going to win, but I don't know who. I don't know who at this point. And our next match is Kendall Rusing versus Amanda Lev.
Yep.
And we had to look back at this. They went against each other in 2017 at the West Coast Trials.
Mm-hmm. That was the
Kendall
one
won by 4.
That was the one that Kendall won the whole thing, right?
Yes.
That was the women's qualifier for 2017 that Kendall won. And I think at that time was I always mix up Kendall and Clay for who the youngest one was. I know that Clay was the youngest. Clay was the youngest. I know that, but I always want to put it as Kendall, but I'm incorrect every time there. So Kendall wins that, but I think, and we looked at the match. Amanda was way smaller then.
Yeah, much smaller Amanda Lev, and even Kendall was much smaller. Like they were both.
Yeah. They were both much younger.
Yes.
I think Kendall was only like, was she 19 there?
Probably.
Something like that. She was young. This is pre Gabby Garcia, Amanda Leve beating Gabby Garcia.
Yeah.
And then the Who's Number One run.
But we see Amanda show up when she needs to, you know, because she won West Coast Trials. Then 2 years after that? 2019?
Yep, she beat Maggie Grandotti in the finals of West Coast Trials there.
So and that was one of those that was a last minute I'm gonna do trials. Yes. And then she wins trials. You know, when she has everything against her, she performs very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she very much shows up to the occasion. It looks phenomenal. With this one, this is a weird match. I think Kendall's definitely going to be the bigger person, the bigger grappler in the match. Yeah. But we saw in the Gabby Garcia match for Levy that doesn't really matter for her. Again, we've seen her get kind of slowed and stopped before by that, but I think we're going to see some interesting wrestling and judo at the beginning. I'm curious that Amanda has now kind of been more into MMA, how much of her time she is committing there versus grappling. We know that Kendall's... Yep.
I would think she was getting ready for trials.
Yeah, I would too, and that's kind of why again a week before, she's probably very, very sharp. I assume she's going to do over 60 kilograms, so they're going to be in the same division if they do both enter trials.
Didn't Kendall win? She won East Coast, but it doesn't matter. That's why.
Yeah, she won East Coast, but so she gets a free flight over to to
it doesn't
Vegas.
Matter. Yeah. I messed up that in my head for a second. I thought she was already in, but she's not.
So I think this will be a very, very close match. Given the 3 rounds for Polaris that are running through, I think that Kendall can probably stay on top and impose a game for 2 of those 3. But I think that Amanda can absolutely, at the beginning of this match, come out with a speed that Kendall is not ready for and get to her back, much like she did with Garcia.
Yeah.
And forced to put Riesling on the defense. Rusing, I always mess up her name, on the defensive here. And just out and continue to stay on top and force Kendall to kind of chase her. But I think that if Kendall gets a grab on you, she can slow Amanda down.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of interviews on Kendall because she was I want to say she was a high school wrestler. I don't think she was a college wrestler.
Yeah. But
she was going through the ways that she trains for tournaments and different brackets and everything. And she doesn't have a gas tank that's going to give up. And she's really okay standing on her feet for a long period of time. And, hand fighting and working for takedowns and stuff like that. And I think if she tries to keep Amanda up for a long period of time, she might be able to slowly, kind of wear on her and get a benefit there. But I see Kendall winning. Yeah. But I really don't want to pick Kendall because I think Amanda could pull something out some crazy choke out or her back takes are amazing. Mm-hmm. So I could go either way, but I'm going to go with Kendall.
Yeah, I think that's the safe bet. But again, Amanda can absolutely take it, which is why this is a fun matchup in the first place. Next match we have Jack Sear versus Ash Williams. We've seen Sear on a couple of the UK cards, Polaris squads, and on Grapple Fest. I'm not going to pick against Ash Williams.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick
Sear is
against
a
him
guy
right
that's
now,
definitely on the rise. So those looked good on super fights. Heel hook wins, submission wins. But Ash Williams is the European champion. I'm not picking against Ash Williams unless it is another non-European. I think Ash Williams is one of the best dudes at the weight at under 66. This is a lightweight. This is under 70 kilograms. But again, very, very close to the 66 kilograms that he won trials at. Not picking against Williams. I think he has a crazy gas tank and speed. I think he's going to leverage the experience versus Sear and stay away from the leg locks, stay away from the heel hooks, and get to his back. Next match, we have Owen Livesey versus Freddie Rosgrove. If you don't know, Freddie came through Baltimore a couple years ago, and
did he?
in all of his Polaris lead-up footage, he has on the Rofo shirt, the Royal Farm shirt, which is a chain at through Baltimore, and it's kind of the unofficial shirt of our team. And so every year, our team will all get these, it's like a dry fit kind of rash guard material that Royal Farm sells, and everyone gets them. And Freddie yep.
I get to be part of the group this year and get one.
And Freddie is rocking that over for the lead up in this match, and it's been awesome. Again, I'm not going to pick against Freddie. He's looked just more and more rounded. He has improved his wrestling greatly, and it is a unstoppable force on the Polaris stage. We've seen him before. He comes out in the singlet.
I also think Owen. I'm just going to say that wrong. Owen Livesey, he's like a black belt in judo and wrestler, and I mean, he chucks people around. I like watching his matches. We
saw him get the body lock last time and just chuck someone from the edge. I'm excited for this one. Again, I know Freddie, so it's hard to pick against Freddie.
Yeah, I'm going to go against him. I'm going with Owen.
This is a fun matchup for that reason, because both guys are absolutely willing to wrestle. Now, Freddie will do a funny thing. He'll show up in a red singlet, and then he'll pull guard on you.
Oh, really?
And it throws guys off, and it's very funny. I think Freddie has great leg locks, and that could give Owen some problems. I think if Owen gets to a body lock, he can definitely lift and throw Freddie. But I think on the feet, this is tough for me, because of the dynamic of the game of how Owen enters the body lock and then enters the throws and the dumps versus how Freddie tends to enter. Freddie is pretty explosive, but I think Owen is definitely more explosive when it comes to the entering of the body lock. But on the ground, I think Freddie has a very, very dangerous leg lock game that we just haven't seen as much of from Owen. Again, I'm less familiar with Owen's game, so this is a fun one for that reason.
Yeah.
Next one, we have Valentina Fels versus Owen O'Flanagan. Should be a really fun match. This is a light heavyweight match. We've seen a lot from Owen recently on the Polaris stage. Not going to pick against Owen on the Polaris stage till he gives me a reason to. We have Margaret Cicerelli versus Ashley Bendel. Should be a really fun match. We also have Paddy Holohan versus Phil Harris. Paddy Holohan used to be an SBG Ireland guy. I'm not sure if he still is. He kind of did his own thing, had to retire from the UFC due to a blood clotting issue, I think, years ago. I followed him back when he first entered into the UFC through his entire run. Really, really fun flyweight. I think he was a flyweight at the time. Might have been a bantamweight, but I thought he was a flyweight. He's going against Phil Harris. Again, Holohan is a fun guy to watch. We've seen him, I think it's been a while since we've seen him, but we previously have seen him and covered him on Grappling before. So that should be a fun bat to watch. That is the bout that opens up the main card. Did you know
that he's a politician?
Who, Holohan?
He's a politician right now.
Yeah. He's an Irish politician now.
I did not know that.
Yep.
So he's a fighter, a politician, and a grappler.
Yep. Well, he's not a fighter anymore. He had to retire. There was a discussion about him coming back, but I think he actually is retired. Now, he retired, I think, in 2017. Might have been 2018. A while ago. He, basically, there was a blood test they took, and he was like, yeah, you have this blood issue.
Yeah, he has a rare blood disorder. Yep. Factor 13 deficiency.
Yep. Yeah, it ended his UFC career, which is unfortunate because he was a fun fighter out of that camp. So that is Polaris 19. Should be a really fun card. Happens the day after Who's Number One. So looking forward to recapping both of those this next week and previewing West Coast trials. What do you got going on this week, Miranda? Anything fun?
Not really. Working, trying to train
Yeah.
when I can. The normal stuff.
Yep. Getting ready for
Getting ready
Vegas.
Yeah, trying to figure out how that's all gonna work.
Yep.
So
I got to figure out the dog for Vegas. So that has been fun. Other than that,
to figure out where you're gonna put the dog.
Yeah, basically taking care of the dog essentially is what we're dealing with right now. Because I cannot bring him to Vegas because he would not enjoy Vegas. So
Just
that's
put him
it.
in your hotel room. You'll be fine.
Nope, not bringing the dog. I love my dog. He's gonna stay home and he's gonna have a nice vacation. And then we're gonna come back and give him pets. So that's it. I'm just getting better this week. Hopefully, everything kind of blows over and I will be back soon. But until then, I'm just sort of taking it easy, taking it low, cleaning the house up, which has been nice, and getting some good sleep, which I have very, very much needed the past couple of weeks. So it's sort of been a blessing
we
in
have to get
disguise.
ready for all kinds of stuff for you.
Yeah, got a lot of stuff coming up in the pipe. We'll talk about it in a couple of weeks. So I've got nothing else, Brandy. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine. This is...
I am Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. We'll see you on the mat, whatever it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.